Okay, we're going to show you guys what's happening in our world today in a logical, escalating problems are out of control. And it didn't just begin with President Trump having the Iranian commander assassinated by the drone. But the effect has been like hitting a hornet's nest with a baseball bat. And you're going to see a video of the man's funeral in Tehran. And in Iran, it was the largest public gathering in that country in 40 years. So what we know is the one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. And we did see him as the terrorist, but the country of Iran sees the United States as the terrorist, and he's their freedom fighter. And so we're witnessing this incredible escalation of hostility toward this country as the result of what's happened. His daughter says at his funeral, there's a dark day coming on the United States for what they've done. Well, I've been writing a booklet for quite a while, and this booklet has already been talking about prophecies describing the day of the Lord coming. And in the booklet, I mentioned the electromagnetic pulse attack, which is grid down, because I am aware of prophecies that talk about brave men crying aloud in the streets. It's Isaiah 33. You should look it up, read it in the New International Version. It says, the highways are desolate. There's no travelers on the road. The treaty's been broken. So after you see this hostility at his funeral, it's just a short while later, the United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterrez, begins to talk about how the whole world's in a turmoil.
Ladies and gentlemen, the new year has begun with our world in turmoil. We are living in dangerous times. Geopolitical tensions are at their highest level this century, and this turbulence is escalating. Even nuclear non-proliferation can no longer be taken for granted. This cauldron of tensions is leading more and more countries to take unpredicted decisions with unpredictable consequences and a profound risk of miscalculation.
And then he says it's leading more and more countries to take unpredicted decisions with unpredictable consequences and the profound risk of miscalculation. It is true. Any nations considering using nuclear weapons, and what causes the electromagnetic pulse, dark days are coming, that want to punch our lights out. This is what he's talking about. The treaty's broken. It's what Isaiah 33 is talking about.
At the same time, we see trade and technological conflicts that fracture world markets, undermine growth, and widen inequalities.
And the fracturing of world markets is the Trump's tariffs, how the world economy is being impacted tremendously by the tariffs, which, I'm a total Trump supporter. I believe he's doing what's best for our country, but the rest of the countries in the world, they don't like it. Because you start costing somebody money, they view that as an act of war. You cost me money, I'm going to come after you. And that's what's happening.
And all the while, our planet is on fire, the climate crisis rages on. In many parts of the world, we see people frustrated and angry. We see increased social unrest and growing extremism, nationalism, and radicalization, with the dangerous advance of terrorism, notably in Africa.
Now he talks about, he doesn't even speak English very well, but if you listen to what he said, it's extremism and nationalism and radicalization. From their point of view, this is the global government, international law. They consider themselves to be the ruling power on the earth, a new world order, a one world government. And they are demanding every nation to come underneath their thumb. that they're the ones in charge. And so in his speech, he mentions how it's extremism and nationalism and radicalization. I go, he's talking about make America great. Trump's agenda, put America first. They view that mentality as extremism, radicalizationism, because it's the opposite of one world order globalism, which is where they're at.
This situation cannot go on. I've been following the recent rise in global tensions with great concern. I'm in constant contact with leading officials around the world. And my message is simple and clear. Stop escalation. Exercise maximum restraint. Restart dialogue. Renew international cooperation. Let us not forget the terrible human suffering caused by war. As always, ordinary people pay the highest price. It is our common duty to avoid it.
So he sums it up real simple. He says he's in constant contact with leading officials around the world. He's talking about being in contact with Russia and Vladimir Putin, because I'm going to show you what happens after his speech. He talks about like they're in charge. He says, my message is simple and clear. Stop escalation. Use maximum restraint. Restart dialogue. Come and talk to us. Renew international cooperation. They want you to cooperate with international law and global government. Because a long time ago, a banker named Paul Warburg made it real clear in a simple speech. He said, you're going to have a global government. Global government's coming, whether you like it or not. They're going to happen one way or the other, either by consent, which is cooperate, or by conquest, which is by force. This is where we are at today. Force is being planned. The drone attack has scared every national leader, scared them. They're out of their minds. There's nowhere to go. They know none of them are safe. Even Russian President Putin could be in the Kremlin doing his Russian presidential, taking care of business all day long. End of the day, he's going to go out to a parking lot where maybe he has a Mercedes with bulletproof windows. He could be escorted out there with a dozen armed guards on each side of him, all kinds of security. Nothing can stop a drone flying over and boom, take him out. They all realize the United States has to be stopped. They're not going to put up with this. This is too much. The time has come. International law has to be enforced. This country has been officially declared in violation of international law because they had George W., who we know is not that bright of a guy. George W. Bush was instructed to go to the UN and ask for authorization to go into Iraq based on a concocted story about having British intelligence that Saddam had weapons of mass destruction. It was all done intentionally as a setup because after he clearly established that he doesn't have international authorization, he's instructed to take American military into Iraq. Hundreds of thousands of Iraqis die, Saddam's killed, no weapons are found. And then you see why they did it. The United Nations Secretary General at the time, Kofi Annan, officially declares that the United States is in violation of international law. They've got us set up, they framed us intentionally to appear to the whole world to be a rogue nation with a lot of power, completely out of control, going all around the world, causing all this global tension. But I'm on to what's being done, because even on the internet now, when you look up New World Order, you'll see this poster by David Rockefeller where he said, we need major crisis to get the nations to accept the New World Order. You start to wake up. It says, wake up, America. Because once you wake up and you realize who the real enemies are these globalists who want a one-world government. They want to completely enslave the entire human race. This is not a government of the people, by the people, for the people. This is a tyrannical form of government. There'll be nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. They want an RFID chip in every single human being. And so they've been concocting all of this crisis on purpose. and blaming it on the United States so they can take this country down, because they know the United States will never consent to global government. And if they're going to have a global government either by consent or by conquest, well, with the United States of America, there's only one choice. The conquest of this country is what they've been planning for a long time. But their real big problem is President Trump, who's making America great again. He's making us stronger. He's building up our military. He's helping us recover economically. They have to stop him. They have to stop him immediately. That's why this is what they're planning. So guess what we're going to see next? We're going to watch the Russian president speaking in Russia at the State of the Union address, where he says, he asked the question, what is it making changes to Russia's main law, the Russian Constitution?
Россия вернулась в международную политику как страна, с мнением которой нельзя не считаться. Мы создали мощные резервы, что кратно повышает устойчивость нашего государства и его способность защитить социальные права граждан, а национальную экономику от любых попыток внешнего давления. Действительно, считаю, что пришло время внести в основной закон страны некоторые изменения, которые прямо гарантируют приоритет Конституции России в нашем правовом пространстве.
What does it mean? It means literally the requirements of international law and treaties, as well as decisions of international bodies, that'd be the United Nations, can be valid on the Russian territory. Russia is completely aligning themselves with this global agenda, and they are going to be the head of the global international law enforcement action, militarily being planned against this country. They're coming to try to take this country down, but they will not succeed. We need to plan for this. This is what's coming. Next, we're going to watch what happened 5 hours after Putin makes the speech about changing Russia's main law, the Russian Constitution. Dmitry Medvedev, the Russian Prime Minister, announces that the balance of power has changed, that the Russian president should be provided the opportunity to make all necessary decisions.
Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev's decision to step down came as a surprise. Medvedev said the president's proposals to amend the country's constitution would significantly change Russia's balance of power. He dutifully made the announcement public.
We, as the government of the Russian Federation, should provide the president of our country with the opportunity to make all necessary decisions to change the Russian political system. In these circumstances, I believe it would be right for the incumbent government of the Russian Federation to resign.
And that means he just took over. And under these circumstances, the right thing to do is for the Russian government to resign. They all packed their lunch, packed their bags, go home. Their job is over. Putin took over total control of Russia. He now has the opportunity to make all necessary decisions. That includes the decision to use Russian troops under a multinational coalition of nations, including the now very hostile and angry Iranians, to form a multinational coalition of nations to come into these United States, referring to themselves as international peacekeeping forces, because the whole world wants peace, and they have determined that the United States is the country that's going all around the world disturbing the peace, and that in order to have peace, this country has to be taken down. That's their plan. We're not going to let that happen. We're going to suffer a great deal of damage, but we will recover. They will not succeed, but we have to have the hope to understand who we are. We are the champions of the world, and we will keep on fighting to the end, because as it says in that song, this is a challenge for the future of the whole human race. Thank you for watching. Click like and subscribe.